At this point, your piping bag has probably gone flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and restock, or I guess reload. I need my ammo! Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Man Cake. My name's Dan, and today we're going to be making a black velvet cake. But, because it's Halloween, it's going to be a spooky black velvet cake. Not really spooky, more like delicious, I guess. I'm really not that spooky. If I was a holiday, I'd maybe be more like Thanksgiving, laid back, relaxing. But we're going to have fun with it. You're going to have to wait till the end for all that. And if this is your first time, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you know when brand new recipes are going to be available, which I post weekly and sometimes more. Now to get started, for our cake batter, we're going to be going old school today and using just a regular bowl and a whisk and some good old-fashioned elbow grease. We are going to use the stand mixer for the buttercream, but I've been going back through the videos and I realized I use this guy a little too much. It's like a close dear friend. So I wanted to show you guys that all the recipes that we make here aren't just based solely on a stand mixer. And you can mix our batters really in any way that you want, be it a stand mixer, a hand mixer, or just good old-fashioned whisk and bowl. So to start, be sure to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And let's get started. Now to start, we're going to take a regular size mixing bowl, and we're going to add the butter, 1 stick at room temperature, and add 2 cups of white sugar. Then, just using a regular whisk, we're going to go ahead and combine those all together. And when you're done, you should have a nice, buttery, sugary crumble. It already smells so delicious. Now we're going to go ahead and move that aside. Then we're going to take 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Then, just using a regular fork, I want to give those a nice little mix. So, guess who just realized that his second camera wasn't on? This guy. So I apologize, but just to backtrack a little bit, we have our butter and sugar mixed in a separate bowl. And then we have our 2 cups of flour, our 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, our teaspoon of baking soda, and our teaspoon of salt mixed together. Sometimes I'm forgetful here in the kitchen, but that's okay. It's baking, and though it's a science, it can be fun or forgetful. Now, on to the rest of the batter. Now we're going to take 3 eggs, yolks and whites, and mix in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now we're going to go ahead and give those a nice little mix and just try to break up the yolks here and get that vanilla really incorporated with the eggs. Then, in another separate bowl, we're going to take 1 cup of sour cream and combine that with a 1/2 cup of milk. And we're going to go ahead and mix these all together as well. Now that we have our 4 separate bowls of all of our main cake batter ingredients, we can go ahead and start adding them all together one by one to get our cake batter. So to start, we're going to go ahead and take our butter sugar mix and add our eggs with our 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Then we're going to go ahead and give those a nice mix around. Once those are mixed, we're going to alternate between our flour mixture and we'll call it our dairy mixture into the egg and butter, starting and ending with the flour. Let's add a little bit of flour. I like to do this in half increments with the flour. So go ahead and give that a nice mix. Now we're going to go ahead and add our sour cream and milk mixture. And then we're going to go ahead and give that a nice mix. Now we get to add the last of our flour mixture. And we'll go ahead and give that one final mix around. There's our black velvet cake batter. Now, I'm sure by now you're thinking, but Dan, it's not black. It looks chocolate. You'd be correct. We just need to finish off with one last ingredient, black food gel coloring. So we're gonna go ahead and just squirt that into our batter. Now I'm gonna use every last drop of this because I really want this cake batter to kind of have a nice fudgy slash sludgy look. Though I guess sludgy is really not a good word to describe a cake, but it's Halloween and it's gonna be spooky. So let's get all this squeezed in here. And then we just want to mix that food gel into the batter. And that's going to turn our velvet batter into a nice black tar color. Trust me, it might not look delicious, but it's going to taste amazing. So with our batter done, we can go ahead and pour this into our prepared pan and toss it in the oven to bake. So we're just going to use a regular 9-inch cake pan. And again, stepping away from my normal utilities here, because I really want to show you guys that the cakes and the recipes that we make can really be made with anything around the house. Well, not anything. You're not going to bake a cake in a spoon. Or can you? Anyway, let's get our cake batter into the pan. And we're just going to go ahead and give it a couple taps to knock out any air bubbles before we bake. Now we just bake in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. Now while that's baking, we can go ahead and start our buttercream. Now for this part, we are going to use our stand mixer, but if you have a hand mixer, you're more than welcome to use that as well. I would just suggest starting in lower portions and kind of making your buttercream in batches and using it all together for your cake. And if you are using a stand mixer, we're going to use the paddle attachment because this is really going to help our buttercream get nice and fluffy. Now for our buttercream, we're going to use 8 sticks of butter and get that started in our stand mixer. Now the 8 sticks are going to be at room temperature. And if you notice that your butter kind of has a weird oily sheen to it, I would suggest letting that butter cool down a little bit in the fridge. This way it'll stiffen up and allow your buttercream to really keep its shape once we start piping that onto the cake. So let's go ahead and start with our 8 sticks of butter. We'll just plop that into the bowl. Now with the buttercream, we are going to have to be a little bit patient because patience is what's going to allow our buttercream to be really delicious and yummy to where everybody's going to want to know how you made it. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix this on a medium-high speed for about 5 minutes until the butter is nice and pale and almost white and fluffy in color. Let's go ahead and get this started. So now our buttercream is at a nice white pale color and it's really fluffy. So now we can add our powdered sugar. Now for the powdered sugar, I'm using 8 cups of sifted powdered sugar. And I went ahead and sifted this ahead of time. So all we need to do is just add this in a couple of cups at a time, let it mix around, add a couple more cups in, and let it mix around, and our last couple of cups, and let it mix around. So let's start by adding 2 cups of powdered sugar. 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and start this on a low speed and gradually increase our way up. And then back down, add more powdered sugar. Same process, low, increase, back down, and then do the same process again when we finish our powdered sugar. So let's get this on a low speed. Now we're going to go ahead and mix this up a little higher. Now we're going to go ahead and add a couple more cups of powdered sugar, and again start at that low speed and gradually make our way up to a high speed. And now our buttercream is all done. Well, one more step. Our last ingredient for our buttercream is going to be to add 2 tablespoons of whole milk. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. Now we're just going to go ahead and give it a quick blast around to really get that milk incorporated into our buttercream to give it that nice silky texture. And there we have it, our buttercream. Simple and really just 3 ingredients. Now that we have our buttercream ready, our cakes are baked, completely cooled and leveled, we can go ahead and start decorating. So let's go ahead and grab our cake stand. Now we're just going to add a little tiny dollop buttercream on the stand to prevent the cake from moving. This will add a little tiny support to the base of the cake. We're going to add our first layer. We're going to go ahead and start piping our buttercream. Now for this one, I like to do a nice little spiral. Now that we have our first layer, we can go ahead and add the second one. And same process, gonna add a nice little spiral layer of buttercream. We're gonna go ahead and add our top layer, but we're gonna add our top layer upside down to give us a nice flat surface for the top of our cake. Just like the other 2 layers, we're gonna go ahead and add a nice little spiral of our buttercream. So let's go ahead and cool this out in the fridge. Okay, so our cake is cooled and set nice and firmly in the fridge. So now we're going to go ahead and finish this off with some buttercream. Go around the edges. Now we're going to go ahead and take our offset spatula and start to smooth out our buttercream. So let's go ahead and add some buttercream dollops. And this is going to be our nice little protective fortress for our little friend that we're going to add on top here. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take the top of our cakes that we leveled off and actually crumb them on top to make a nice little bed, again, for our special friend that's going to go on top of the cake. So we're going to take a separate bowl. Now we just place a nice little spot right in the middle. Now to make our cake topper really shine and pop, we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of gold luster dust and paint our little cake topper, our little friend. Because what's Halloween without a nice sparkly spider to really bring in the holiday? And add a tiny bit of Grey Goose. And we're really just going to mix it up. And it's really like liquid gold. This cake is going to be so cute. So now we just go ahead and bling out our little spider friend. And there we have it. Our nice gold sparkly, because who doesn't love a little sparkle in their life, spider for our cake topper. Let's go ahead and get this guy on. So we're going to go ahead and take our little fella here, nice and carefully, and place him on top of our cake. Have it, our black velvet cake with delicious buttercream and a nice sparkly sputter on top to give it that kind of a spooky, glitzy flair. Wow, can't talk. Glitzy flair. I want to bite into this. I don't know about you guys, but this looks delicious. Let's go ahead and bite into it. Okay, that's a delicious black velvet cake. If you guys make this, let me know how it turns out. You can either post to our Instagram, or our Facebook, or Twitter. I'm everywhere. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And subscribe down below so you know when brand new recipes are available. As always, life is short, so lick the bowl. Until next week, bye!